Isn't it interesting that as we come to the beginning of the end of lockdown, this day coincides with the 75th anniversary of VE Day and the end of the war in Europe? It's interesting that we're at the beginning of the end. VE Day is happening, and then we have this wait until August for VJ Day, victory over Japan. And the battle against the virus isn't over, but there's a significant moment as the government starts to ease the measures. We're at the beginning of the end. I want to tell you a story. There was a man called Walter. He was in the Black Watch in the Second World War, in the Highland Division. And he was one of the first soldiers to be repatriated once enough of the Afrika Korps had been captured that the Germans were interested in doing a trade. He left Eastern Europe on a ship bound for Sweden and soon found himself in Scotland and came home to his family in 1943. He'd spent 3 years in a prisoner of war camp somewhere far in the east of Europe. He'd been captured in the battle for Dunkirk because the Highland Division were sacrificed to let everyone else get away. Their casualties were very high, and Walter was wounded when he was strafed by a German aircraft on the outskirts of Dunkirk as he was trying to hide and seek shelter behind a hay bale. Him and his mate were shot up pretty bad. His mate was on the operating table in a field hospital. He was next to be operated on when the Germans overrun that position and stopped the operation. It was 1969, a year or two before Walter's death, where he finally got the operation he needed. There was another man called Charlie. His role in the war was rather different. He was a plumber, retained by an RAF station to keep the plumbing going. A crucial job, really. And he tells the story of one night when a Lancaster bomber crew had crash-landed at the RAF station, and his role was to keep the pumps and the drains going in the operating theatre so that the operation could continue. So we have two stories of two men. Both of them were my grandfathers, by the way. One where the forces of evil came in and stopped an operation, and one where the forces of good kept the operation going and saved lives. The battle of good versus evil. It's always been raging. And as we think about Victory in Europe Day, that's really what we're celebrating. That good triumphed over evil. But there was a bigger and better VE Day 2,000 years ago. Not victory in Europe, but victory over evil. And in the 2,000 years that have passed since then, all the hospitals, schools, courtrooms, universities, scientific research establishment and government offices that have popped up since are all traceable back to this one person who changed everything. His name is Jesus. Well, the world is still at war. We've not yet had our VJ Day, but it is coming. The war will end, and we will have a victorious Jesus, a VJ Day to remember forever. And our task, in the meantime, is to help to end the war, to be citizens who fight for the common good, who stand up for the oppressed, and the marginalized. And as we think about lockdown being eased and VJ Day coming in August, it's time for us to reflect on the greater struggle and the greater victory and what our part is in that. So let me ask you, what are you doing to help end the war?